Hello and welcome to the Real Estate Regroup Show. I am your host, LJ Walker, a real estate investor helping you realize your dreams of owning a home or investing in one. So someone asked me to go over Greg Parker. The thing is, there was a great video that was already done on him called Death of the Clout Chaser. So what I'm going to do is I'll add the link to the bottom of my video on YouTube called the Real Estate Regroup Show, and I will just add a little bit more to it that may not have been covered in that video. But before I do so, for those of you who are not familiar with what happened, Greg Parker and his wife are currently involved in several lawsuits. Some of the lawsuits have actually gone through and found him guilty. Here's what it is. He bought homes real cheap, sold them real high using a quick claim deed to his students. Then, afterwards, he had promised that he would fix up the properties, and he said that it would only take 10 days to do. However, many claim that it was never done. Only a few people I've seen that said, yes, he did fix the properties. But then he said he would manage the properties. And from what I gather, most said no, he did not manage the properties at all. Okay, so that's the gist of it, to bring you up to snuff, those of you who are not familiar. So here's the thing. So here's some things that I just wanted to point out. 10 days is awfully a short period of time to fix up a property. It normally takes a lot more than that, okay? Currently, I am a private lender for a property that's getting fixed over in Smyrna, Georgia, which is near Atlanta, right? So far, I signed the paperwork in August. The house is still being renovated, and it wasn't a gut rehab. It's just that it's a big house and it was outdated. Okay, the turnaround time is supposed to be it should be over by like October, November. So that's a couple of months, right? These homes, from my understanding, many of them were on the condemnation list. Now, in order to be on the condemnation list, that means that the house is worse off than the one that I'm doing right now. That means that the structure of the house is messed up. The foundation might be messed up. There may be mold on the house, that sort of thing, right? There may even be fire, water damage, things like that. So if a house makes it to the condemnation list, it's messed up, and it's definitely going to take more than 10 days to do. The two gut rehabs I had in Georgia, that took about a year to complete. A little over, because I had to fire people that were ripping me off. So, no, that's a red flag. I want that flag to wave at you. It's not a warning signal. It's a red flag if somebody says that to you. And again, I know I mentioned this in another video. Whatever time frame a contractor says, add to it. And also make sure you put in the contract that you have with the contractor when the actual property is supposed to be done. And some people, what they do is they'll even fine the contractor, saying, if you don't complete it by this time, we're going to deduct a certain amount of money from you. So that this way it puts that extra pressure on the contractor to get it done. The other thing on the side of the contractor, I will say to you, is this: after doing the gut rehabs, is that a lot of times you don't know what is behind the walls. Sometimes a pipe has burst. Sometimes the wiring is old and needs to be redone. You also don't know what's underneath the floors. Okay, guys? So, on first looking at the place, you may say, oh, I can do this at a certain amount, for a certain amount of money at a certain amount of time. But then you'll uncover other things as you go along and realize, oh, I'm going to need more money and I'm going to need more time. Okay, that is normal. So that 10-day thing is an issue for me. That would have been a red flag for me. Okay, even if the people were extremely experienced and came highly recommended, 10 days is still too short of a time for a property that's condemned. All right. Now, there are people who question even buying property from the condemnation list. All right. So here's the thing. Sometimes when you run title, right, sometimes it doesn't always show that a property is condemned or on the condemnation list. All right. So it does behoove you, especially if you can see with your own eyes that the property needs to be fixed up and that the property is old, you should call the county recorder's office or the tax appraiser's office, and they will direct you to the correct office that will let you know whether a property is on the condemnation list or not. The names of these offices and who is responsible for what is not the same from county to county. Okay, so that's why you have to pick up that phone and make that phone call. Better yet, if you can physically go to those offices and speak to someone, I don't know what it is, but for some reason they have a better attitude. Not all of them, but many of them have a better attitude when they see you face to face as opposed to when you call them on the phone. Just letting you know, okay? All right. So that is something that I definitely want you guys to know. It's not wrong. When you buy any property that's on the condemnation list, though, you do need to ask. You do need to speak with the people there, and you need to find out, well, why is it on the condemnation list? Because sometimes it's on the condemnation list because the government is planning to do something with that particular area, and they won't even let you buy it. But sometimes they will, and it'll be at a very low cost. However, you got to promise them that you will bring that property up to snuff, okay, within, a relatively shorter period of time, but not 10 days. Maybe like 60 days, they'll listen to you if you tell them that, even though it may take you longer than 60 days. They also like to see that you already have a construction team with you, behind you, backing you, that will bring that property up to snuff. If it is for sale. And if you don't bring it back up to snuff, if they don't see any progress that is being made, then they will go ahead and condemn the property. And sometimes they'll go ahead and bulldoze it. And to be honest with you, sometimes a property is worth more as a plot of land than having a house on it. Okay? Because let's say that house has mold, like, black mold. Let's say the renovation costs more than buying a new building, or costs more than putting up a new building. Yeah, in those cases, then it actually is cheaper to just bulldoze the thing down and sell the land as lots, or to just build a new building, a new house on that particular property. But yes, they do give you, many municipalities do give you a time limit to bring it up to code. Okay. I know that in San Antonio, they have the code enforcement office, and they will come around and make sure. So they'll come around even before, and they're the ones that normally say this goes on the condemnation list. But again, it's not always called code enforcement somewhere else. I just know about that area because I've been there before, and I've interacted with the RIA. And I'm still friends with many of the people that are there. So that's the only reason why I know about that particular place, that particular area. Okay. The other thing too that you may want to do, if a person is going to be buying from the condemnation list, definitely contact the Department of Health. The Department of Health will say, okay, there's radon here, there's lead here, there's asbestos here. Like, they'll tell you specifically what else may be on the property that you can't physically see. Because remember, a lot of gases are not visible to the eye. Gases are in the air, and you need to like have special testers go in and test that out to see, like, does this exist here or doesn't it exist here? And there's special ways that you have to remove it. You can't just get any old contractor to come in and move those kind of things out. Even mold, you have to get a special contractor to have that removed, that has a special license. And I know with the mold, there's actually a site that you go to verify and make sure the person does have a license. So was he wrong if he bought it from the list, the condemnation list, to sell it? No, he's not wrong. But he is wrong for not fixing it like he promised, if that is the case, right? And according to the courts of law, that has been the case in several situations. Okay. Another thing that I wanted to bring up, that I could have sworn I heard him saying, I can't find the video anymore, but he mentioned that if a person puts in $100, if they have $100,000, then they invest all of it, or they invest 150. That's not always the case. You do have people who use other people's money in order to invest. In many ways, that is the fastest way to grow your real estate business, especially if you are an investor. But then you have people like me. Let me not just say that, but then you have other people who use their own money and don't use other people's money because they want to. Basically, the reason why I'm the way I am is because I'm afraid to lose other people's money. So I'd rather lose my money first, learn from my mistakes, then go ahead and get it right. And then now I'm opening up the door to invest other people's money, but I'm still not like opening it up to the public. I have a certain select number of people that I will do business with. I've been burned before, I've been scammed before, so I'm hesitant in doing that. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. But anyway, if you are someone who's only using your own money, you don't want to use 100% of your money. You want to use maximum 80% of whatever it is you have. So if you have $100,000, you only want to spend $80,000, again, because you don't know, there are hidden expenses that can occur. Plus, there's something called taxes. And you have to pay those. So that's another reason why I say I disagree with him. You don't spend $100,000, you spend 80. And even the person that I'm dealing with now, where I'm actually the private lender, she borrowed a certain amount of money from me, but she told me up front she didn't really need that much. She just wanted it because, again, just in case something happens and she has to pay for it, she doesn't want to scramble for the money. So that's why she asked for more than what she actually needed and wanted. Okay, so that's what I wanted to share with you guys. As far as what I heard him say, that I was like, oh boy, I don't think so. I disagreed with him. And that would have been for me, that would have been a red flag. Okay? Okay. Now, next, another point that was spoken about in the video, Death of a Clout Chaser, that had Tony the Closer, I believe, What Happened to Common Sense, and some other people there. The other thing that came up was that there was a guy who quit his job, and I believe that money was his retirement money that he invested with Greg Parker, that unfortunately he may not get back. The reason why he might not get it back is because there's a lot of lawsuits against Mr. Parker, and there's a lot of people he has to pay back. As a matter of fact, in The Real Deal, which is a magazine that many law firms that deal in real estate read, and I work for one of those, it said that the wife did file for bankruptcy for one of her businesses. In addition, it does state that they are selling their Florida home. So, yeah, I'm assuming that they're selling that home to pay off all of the lawsuits that have come up against them. So that's why I said that it's a possibility that that particular person who quit their job will not get their money back. My understanding, they said, was that that person did go back to work, which is, that person is quite lucky, because sometimes jobs don't always accept you back. Here's my thing. Here's my advice. A lot of real estate gurus are very charming, and they will make it look and seem like this business is easy. Well, I'm telling you, it's not. I don't care who you are. I don't care what race you are. I don't care what sex you are. I don't care how old or how young you are. This is not an easy business. There are some strategies that might be easier than others, but there'll be days when you can sleep well, but there are going to be days when you won't be able to sleep. I don't care what strategy you choose. Okay, so I say, please do not quit your job before your first deal even completes. Even when your first deal does complete, I still don't think you should quit your job. The way you do this, the way I'm doing it, is you quit your job after you make enough to cover your bills and you have extra cash flow, extra income coming in. That might take 2 deals for some people, depending on what it is they buy and how much money is coming in. It may be 3, it may be 4, it may be 8 deals. Again, a lot of it depends on the income that you are getting from the property. You want to make sure that the income that you're getting from the property is sufficient enough to maintain the type of lifestyle that you want to live, or that you can live comfortably on. That's what you want to do. You don't want to quit your job and say, oh, I'm just going to go into real estate. There have been a few people who have done it and they've been successful, yes, but they are few and far between. The vast majority are not that successful. Even when I first got started and I bought the home that I live in right now, which is a multifamily, the first year, I did not make enough money. As a matter of fact, I was in the red, I was in the negative, because I didn't know how to price the apartment correctly. I was listening to the wrong people who gave me the wrong advice. All right. So when my accountant came to me and said, what are you doing? This should be this amount. And look, you're not even making enough. And who are the, he just went through it with me. And I realized, oh, wow, okay, I made a big mistake. I corrected it. And then the next year I started to make enough money to cover all of my bills and my mortgage. So that's why you have to be careful who you listen to. All right. Now, the other thing, I'm going to say this, and I probably will get in trouble for it, but I don't care. I noticed that some of the people who were partnering with Mr. Parker are now kind of like changing their story, changing things around as though they didn't have a hand on what happened. I don't trust some of these people. I may be wrong. I probably am wrong. But if I hear one lie, I discount the person altogether. One of the partners, or one of the people who was working with him, they said that they believe that everything was okay, but they said that the problem was the wife. They also said that he was illiterate. Well, I saw a live with Mr. Parker on, I think the guy's name is Big Qua here on YouTube. And Mr. Parker was clearly reading all of the comments that were coming up on his screen. So he's definitely not illiterate. So if I were you guys, I wouldn't just, jump from Mr. Parker to jump to work with one of the people he was partnering with. I would still tread lightly, if you will. And then another thing I wanted to mention, I almost forgot, is that the model that Mr. Parker was using, many real estate investors, we call that turnkey. All right. Well, here's something that many of you may not realize. Most real estate investors, especially those who have been in it for a long time, do not like turnkey real estate investments at all. Many of the ones, I've been looking at them actually since 1999. They've been around for a while. His model is not brand new, is what I'm trying to tell you. So what happens is many of them from back then are not around today. Many of them were involved and have been sued, and companies have just been shut down that were involved in turnkey. Here, and then the other, because of the same practices that Mr. Parker has been charged with. But the other thing is, even the ones that are honest, that are true, your returns are low. Let me give you an example. There are some that will sell you a house for $200,000. but your profit will only be $200 a month. If you were to buy a house yourself for $200,000, sometimes you can buy that same house that they bought for a lot less than $200,000, fix it up for a lot less than what they charge you, put a tenant in there yourself and get $2,000 a month as opposed to $200 a month. So that's one of the main reasons why a lot of real estate investors don't care for them. And then I do mortgage notes. So you can use that same $200,000 and you can get $20,000 a month without doing any maintenance or any repairs. So again, that is why a lot of real estate investors stay clear of turnkey. Turnkey is really for people who, let's say, they're like doctors or lawyers. They work like really long hours and they have absolutely no time to monitor real estate investments like that. They will do turnkey. They will invest that way. But other people, they're not going to do that. It doesn't, they're not going to get the returns that they want, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, that is the thing with turnkey. You got to be very careful. You really have to look at the reputation of the company. Look at how long have they been around. Go to your local real estate investors association. Some of them will recommend a few to you that may be local to you. Some of them do have where they'll either come to a local real estate event that you have, and they'll also have it where you can go to them, visit their area, visit the properties and see what's going on and speak to a number of people there and just see how things work. But always, definitely, you have to do your due diligence, especially when you're going to be giving out a large amount of money. Okay, so that's basically my 2 cents on the whole Greg Parker situation. Feel free to pass this amongst your friends. Remember, each one reach one, teach one. If you have anybody else that you want me to look into, feel free to share that information with me. Drop it down in the comments in my YouTube. Bye for now. Until next time, have a good night.